My wife's younger sister confessed she's in love with me. A week later, I found out my wife had been cheating with my older brother since before we got married. Let me back up. Sarah's been living with us for 3 months since she graduated from college. Sweet kid, always looked up to me and Jessica like we had our together. Ha! She'd been acting weird lately, lingering when Jess left for work, finding excuses to be alone with me. I should have seen it coming. Tuesday night, Jessica was working late again. Another emergency at the law firm. Sarah made dinner, opened a bottle of wine, and we ended up on the couch watching some Netflix show. The conversation got deep, you know? About life, dreams, and regrets. She started crying about how she felt lost, how everyone else seemed to have it figured out. You and Jessica are so perfect together, she whispered, moving closer. I wish I could find what you have. That's when she looked at me with those big eyes, so vulnerable, so young. 22 to 31. And like the piece of I am, I felt something stir. Not just attraction, this sick sense of power, of being needed, wanted by someone who wasn't taking me for granted. Sarah, you will. You're amazing, any guy would be lucky. She kissed me. Soft, desperate, tasting like wine and tears. I should have pulled away immediately. Should have been the adult, the married man, the guy who supposedly loved his wife. Instead, I kissed her back. For maybe 10 seconds that felt like a lifetime, I let myself pretend I was someone else. Someone single, someone free, someone who deserved to be wanted like that. When I finally came to my senses and pushed her away, the damage was done. She was sobbing, apologizing, saying she'd been in love with me for 2 years. 2 years. Living in our house, eating our food, watching me brush my teeth in the morning, and kiss my wife goodbye. This never happened, I told her, my voice shaking. We made a mistake. Jessica can never know. Sarah nodded, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, Mike. I'm so sorry. I'll move out tomorrow, I promise. Just please don't tell her. Please. I went to bed that night hating myself, replaying those 10 seconds over and over. The softness of her lips, the way she'd whispered my name. Jessica came home around midnight, slipped into bed smelling like someone else's cologne, and I was too consumed with my oil to even notice. The next morning, Sarah was gone. Left a note saying she got a job offer in Portland and had to leave immediately. Jessica was confused but not suspicious. That's so sudden, she said, reading the note over coffee. I hope she's okay. I mumbled something about quarter-life crisis and buried my face in my laptop, drowning in shame. For a week, I jumped every time my phone buzzed, terrified it would be Sarah saying she'd told Jessica everything. But nothing came. Just silence. That's when I started noticing things. Little things that should have been obvious months ago. Jessica's phone face down on the counter. She stays late at work 3, sometimes 4 nights a week. The way she'd disappear into the bathroom with her phone for 20-minute showers. How she'd started buying new lingerie but never wore it for me. Last Friday, a week after Sarah left, I came home early from work. Wanted to surprise Jess with dinner, maybe start making up for the guilt eating me alive. Her car wasn't in the driveway, but that wasn't unusual. She could have walked to the grocery store. I was chopping vegetables when I heard voices upstairs. Male voice, familiar but wrong. My throat went cold. I crept up the stairs like a burglar in my own house, heart hammering so hard I thought it might burst. Our bedroom door was cracked open. Through the gap, I could see Jessica's legs wrapped around someone's waist. Someone with the same broad shoulders as me, the same dark hair, the same tribal tattoo on his left shoulder. My brother David was my wife in our bed. Not McKing-aching love. The way she used to with me, back when she'd moan my name like it meant something. They were talking between kisses, whispering things I couldn't hear but knew were intimate, real, the kind of pillow talk that comes from months or years of secret passion. I backed away, barely breathing, and somehow made it to my car without puking. Drove around for 3 hours trying to process what I'd seen. My brother. My wife. In our bed. How long? How could I have been so blind? When I finally came home, David's truck was gone. Jessica was in the kitchen making dinner like nothing happened, hair still messy from wearing the robe I'd bought her for Christmas. Hey, she said, not even looking up from the stove. How was work? Fine, I croaked. You? Busy day. Had to work late again. She glanced at me then, and something flickered in her eyes. Guilt? Fear? You look pale. You feeling okay? That night, lying next to her pretending to sleep, I put the pieces together. The cologne smell wasn't from work colleagues, it was David's. The same cologne he'd worn since high school. The work emergencies always fell on days when his ex-wife had the kids. The new lingerie was for him. And Sarah knew. That's why she'd confessed to me, why she'd kissed me. She'd been watching them, seeing what I was to see, and in her 22-year-old mind, she thought if she could make me cheat too, it would somehow balance the scales. I wanted to confront Jessica, but what would I say? I know you're cheating with my brother, also, I kissed your sister? I was trapped by my guilt, my betrayal. We were both cheaters now, both liars, both destroyers of the life we'd built. Sunday morning, Jessica announced she wanted to have brunch with David. He's been going through a tough time with the divorce, she said, not meeting my eyes. I think it would be nice if we supported him. I watched my wife lie to my face about my brother, and all I could do was nod and ask what I should bring. That was 3 days ago. I haven't slept, can barely eat. I keep thinking about Sarah's kiss, about Jessica's legs around David's waist, about how catastrophically everything has fallen apart. Tomorrow's our 5th wedding anniversary. I made it through our anniversary dinner somehow. Jessica wore the red dress I'd bought her for our first Valentine's Day, smiled at all the right moments, and even held my hand across the table at Romano's, where we had our first date. She was performing the part of loving wife while I performed the part of faithful husband, both of us probably thinking about other people. Remember when we used to come here every Friday? She said, twirling pasta around her fork. Before we got so busy with work and life. Yeah, I managed. Simpler times. If she only knew how simple those times were. When our biggest problem was whether to get appetizers, not whether our marriage was built on a foundation of lies and family betrayal. I'd been planning to tell her everything that night. Confess about Sarah, demand the truth about David, up our charade once and for all. But sitting there watching her laugh at something on her phone, probably a text from my brother, I couldn't do it. I'm a coward. Always have been. Instead, I excused myself to the bathroom and called Sarah. She answered on the first ring. Mike? What's wrong? How long have you known? My voice was barely a whisper. About Jessica and David. Long pause. I could hear traffic in the background, maybe rain. Portland sounds. I caught them last Christmas, she said finally. At Mom and Dad's house. David was supposed to be getting more wine from the basement, and Jessica went to help him. I went down to get my jacket and they were against the wall, going at it like teenagers. Last Christmas. 8 months ago. While I was upstairs helping her parents set up the new TV, my wife was getting railed by my brother 20 feet below me. Why didn't you tell me? Sarah's voice broke. I wanted to. God, Mike, I wanted to tell you so many times. But then I started watching you together, and you seemed happy. Clueless, but happy. And I thought. Maybe she'd end it. Maybe it was just a phase. But it wasn't. No. It got worse. She started calling him when you were at work. They'd text constantly. When I moved in with you guys, they barely tried to hide it. The looks, the inside jokes, the way they'd touch each other when they thought no one was watching. My legs gave out. I slumped against the bathroom wall, phone pressed to my ear like a lifeline. That's why you kissed me, I said. You thought if I cheated too. I thought if you had someone who loved you, maybe you'd be strong enough to leave her. I know how pathetic that sounds. A 22-year-old, thinking she could save her sister's husband from her sister. But Mike, watching David break your heart and knowing you had no idea. It was me. I wanted to be angry at her, but I couldn't. She was trying to save me while I was drowning in my stupidity. There's more, Sarah said quietly. Things I couldn't bring myself to tell you. My stomach dropped. What things? Your wedding. David was supposed to give a speech at the reception, remember? But he disappeared for like an hour during dinner? I remembered. He'd mumbled something about needing air, stepped out, came back disheveled and I'd been annoyed but not suspicious. They're in your car, Mike. In the parking lot, while you were inside dancing with your new wife. I saw them coming back together, fixing their clothes. Jessica's lipstick was gone, and David's hair was a mess. The bathroom started spinning. They'd been since before my wedding. Maybe before I'd even proposed. My entire marriage was a lie. I took pictures, Sarah continued. On my phone. I was going to show you that night, but then the reception was so beautiful, and you looked so happy. I couldn't destroy that. Do you still have them? Yes. Send them to me. Mike. Send them to me, Sarah. I hung up and stumbled back to the table. Jessica was checking her phone again, smiling at the screen. Everything okay? She asked. You look sick. Just tired, I said. Can we go home? During the drive, my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. No message, just 3 photos. Even in the dim parking lot lighting, it was unmistakably them. Jessica's red dress hiked up, David's hands on her he thrown back in A against Honda Civic. My wedding night. At home, Jessica went straight to bed. I'm exhausted, she said, kissing my cheek. Big day tomorrow. I sat in the living room staring at those photos until sunrise, piecing together a timeline of betrayal. Every late night, every weekend, Avid had come over to help with projects, every family gathering where they'd volunteered to do dishes together. It was all a cover for them to do behind my back. Around 6 a.m., my phone rang. David. Hey, little brother, he said, voice thick with sleep. Want to grab breakfast? I need to talk to you about something. Sure, I said, my voice eerily calm. Meet me at Denny's in an hour. He was already there when I arrived, looking nervous in a way I'd never seen before. fidgeting with his coffee cup, avoiding eye contact. "So," he said after I ordered. "There's something I need to tell you. About Jessica and me." I almost laughed. After 8 months of my wife, he was finally going to confess? What changed his mind? Guilt? Fear of getting caught? Or was Jessica pushing him to come clean so they could run away together? "Oh?" I said, cutting into my pancakes like we were discussing the weather. "What about you and Jessica?" David's face went white. "You know." "I know." "How long?" "Since last week. Saw you in our bedroom." He buried his face in his hands. "Mike. I'm so sorry." "How long?" I asked again. 2 years. His voice was barely audible. "It started at your bachelor party. She was stressed about the wedding, feeling trapped, and I was angry about my divorce. We ended up talking in the hotel bar after everyone else went to bed, and one thing led to another. My bachelor party. They'd started their affair at my bachelor party." "You've been with my wife for 2 years, I said slowly, testing how the words felt. "Including my wedding night." David's eyes shot up. "You saw the photos." "Sarah took them." Jesus Christ. He was shaking now. "Mike, I swear to God, we tried to stop. After the wedding, we both felt so guilty. But we couldn't stay away from each other. It just kept happening. In my house. In my bed. Yes. While I was at work, thinking I had a happy marriage." "Mike, please. Did you laugh about me?" The question came out broken, desperate. "When you were with her, did you laugh about how I was?" David's silence was answer enough. I stood up, a 20 on the table, and walked out. Behind me, I could hear him calling my name, but I didn't turn around. I drove home in a daze, mind completely blank, hands moving on autopilot. Jessica was in the shower when I got back. I could hear her singing, some pop song she'd been humming for weeks. Probably David's favorite. I sat on our bed, looking at the rumpled sheets where they'd been together God knows how many times, and felt something inside me break completely. When she came out wrapped in a towel, hair dripping, I was holding up my phone showing her the wedding photos. "We need to talk," I said. The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might faint. She sat down on the bed, towel clutched around her chest. "How long have you known?" she whispered. "A week." "How long has it been going on?" She started crying then. Big sobs that shook her whole body. 2 years. "Mike, I'm so sorry. I never meant for it to happen. My bachelor party. Yes. My wedding night. Yes. In our bed. Yes." Each admission was a knife twist. I found myself cataloging every lie, every betrayal, every moment I'd been playing the fool while my wife and brother laughed behind my back. "Do you love him?" I asked. She nodded, still crying. "I think I always have. Even before we got together, when we were kids. But you were so good to me, so stable and kind, and I thought that was enough. I thought I could make it enough. So you married me as a consolation prize while the man you wanted." "It wasn't like that." "It was exactly like that." I left her crying on the bed and went to pack a bag. Had to get out before I did something I'd regret even more than kissing Sarah. As I was shoving clothes into a duffel bag, Jessica appeared in the doorway. "Where will you go?" she asked. "Hotel. Then I'll figure it out." "Mike, please. Can we talk about this? Try to work through it?" I stopped packing and looked at her. Looked. The woman I'd planned to have kids with, grow old with, the woman I'd promised to love until death. She was beautiful, even crying, even after destroying everything. And I felt nothing. Just empty. "Work through what, Jess? The fact that you've been cheating on me since before we got married? That every time I told people how lucky I was to have you, you were probably texting my brother about the next time you could sneak away too? I know how it sounds. It sounds like I've been living a lie for 5 years." I finished packing and headed for the door. As I reached the hallway, she called after me. "What about Sarah?" I froze. "What about her?" "She kissed you, didn't she? Last week, before she left." I turned around slowly. Jessica was standing in the doorway, no longer crying, something cold and calculating in her eyes. "How did you?" "She called me. From Portland. Confessed everything, begging me to forgive her. Said she was in love with you and couldn't stand watching you be with someone who didn't deserve you." The walls started closing in. Sarah had confessed to protect me, and now Jessica was using it as ammunition. "So we're both cheaters," Jessica continued. "Both liars. Maybe we deserve each other. I didn't see your sister for 2 years." "No, but you wanted to. I could see it, Mike. The way you looked at her, especially these last few months. Part of me was relieved when it finally happened. Meant I didn't have to feel so guilty anymore." I stared at my wife, this stranger wearing Jessica's face, and realized I'd never really known her at all. "I'm filing for divorce," I said. "Fine. But just remember, you're not innocent in this either." I walked out of the house I'd bought for us, got in the car where my brother had my wife on our wedding night, and drove away from the life I thought I had. The kicker? I'd been planning to surprise Jessica with a weekend trip to Napa for our anniversary. Already booked the hotel, the wine tasting, and the romantic dinner. Wanted to tell her I was ready to start trying for kids. Instead, I'm sitting in a Motel 6 writing this on my phone, wondering how my life imploded so completely in 1 week. It's been a month since I walked out, and I'm starting to understand what rock bottom feels like. Spoiler alert, it's not the dramatic crash you see in movies. It's more like drowning in slow motion while everyone watches and pretends not to notice. I moved into a studio apartment across town. Calling it an apartment is generous. It's a glorified closet with a hot plate and a shower that only works half the time. But it's what I can afford now that I'm paying for 2 places and lawyer fees. The divorce proceedings started immediately. Jessica hired the best attorney money could buy, some shark from her firm who specializes in complex marital dissolution. Translation: she's going to take me for everything I'm worth while making me look like the villain. Her strategy became clear fast. I'm the cheater. I'm the one who betrayed our marriage by pursuing an inappropriate relationship with a vulnerable young woman. The fact that she'd been my brother since before our wedding? Just a reaction to emotional neglect and infidelity in the marriage. My lawyer, a decent guy I found on Google who charges 1/3 of what hers does, laid it out straight. She's claiming alienation of affection, emotional cruelty, and adultery. She's asking for the house, half your 401k, and alimony. The photos you have of her and your brother are helpful, but her attorney will argue they were taken without consent and may not be admissible. Meanwhile, her sister's testimony about your advances. I hit him. There were no advances. I believe you. But she's claiming you initiated a pattern of inappropriate behavior over several months. Made her feel unsafe in her own home. There are text messages. I ran cold. What text messages? He slid a folder across his desk. Screenshots of conversations between Jessica and Sarah, dating back months. Messages I'd never seen, never knew existed. Sarah, he's been looking at me weirdly lately. Makes me uncomfortable. Jessica, what do you mean weird? Sarah, like. Inappropriate. Yesterday, he offered to help me move furniture in my room and kept making excuses to touch me. Jessica, that doesn't sound like Mike. Sarah, maybe I'm imagining it. But I feel like he's always finding reasons to be alone with me when you're not here. There were dozens of them. Months of fabricated conversations painting me as a predator systematically grooming my wife's innocent younger sister. The final messages were from the night she kissed me. Sarah, it happened. He kissed me tonight when you were at work. I tried to stop him, but he said he'd been wanting this for months. Jessica, oh my God. Are you okay? Did he force you? Sarah, I don't know. I was confused and scared. He said if I told you, he'd deny everything and you'd never believe me. Every single word was a lie. Sarah had kissed me, confessed she'd been in love with me for years, and begged me not to tell Jessica. But reading these messages, she sounded like a victim. I sounded like a monster. This is all, I told my lawyer. She's lying. Can you prove that? I couldn't. It was my word against theirs, and they had documentation going back months. Premeditated character assassination. That night, I called Sarah from my apartment, hands shaking as I dialed. Why? I asked when she picked up. Why are you lying about what happened? She was crying before she even spoke. Because Jessica knows, Mike. She's known about us talking for months. She made me do it. Made you? She said if I didn't back up her version of events, she'd tell everyone I seduced a married man. Ruin my reputation, make sure I never get a job in my field. She has connections everywhere, Mike. She could destroy my life. So you destroyed mine instead. I didn't want to. But she showed me the texts between her and David, proving they'd been together since before your wedding. Said if I helped her, she'd make the divorce quick and clean. If I didn't. You let me under the bus to protect yourself. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. I hung up and put phone across the room. It shattered against the wall, just like everything else in my life. The worst part wasn't the legal stuff or the money. It was watching my family pick sides. David, the golden child who could do no wrong, spun a story about consoling Jessica during her difficult marriage. Poor Jessica, married to a man who was emotionally distant and inappropriate with her family members. My parents bought it completely. Mom called me crying, asking how I could do such a thing to that sweet girl and her poor sister. Dad was more direct, I'm disappointed in you, son. This isn't how we raised you. I tried to tell them the truth, showed them the photos Sarah had taken. But David had gotten there first, explained them away as a moment of weakness when Jessica needed comfort after discovering Mike's behavior with Sarah. Even my coworkers started treating me differently. Word spreads fast in our industry, and suddenly I was the guy who'd cheated on his wife with her teenage sister. Never mind that Sarah was 22. Never mind that she'd kissed me. The narrative was set, I was a predator who groomed an innocent girl while my wife suffered in silence. I lost 3 clients in 2 weeks. HR called me in for a friendly chat about maintaining professional standards. My boss, who'd been a groomsman at my wedding, could barely look me in the eye. "Maybe you should consider taking some time off," he said. "Let things cool down." Translation: "You're now, and we need you gone before you drag us down with you." Meanwhile, Jessica and David weren't even trying to hide their relationship anymore. I drove past our house last week and saw his truck in the driveway at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. Walked past Romano's and saw them at our old table, holding hands like new lovers instead of people who'd been behind my back for years. The final kick in the teeth came yesterday. I was having a drink at Murphy's, the only bar in town where people don't know my story yet, when this guy approached me. Tall, well-dressed, confident smile. "You're Mike, right? Jessica's ex-husband?" "Soon-to-be ex," I corrected. "Right. I'm Marcus. I'm dating her sister, Sarah, now." He turned to acid in my stomach. "Sarah's dating someone?" "Yeah, for about 3 weeks now. Great girl. Mature for her age." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Look, I probably shouldn't say this, but she told me what happened between you two. That must have been rough, having your marriage fall apart because you couldn't keep your hands off a kid." I set my down carefully, trying not to show how much I wanted to break the bottle over his smug face. "That's not what happened." "Hey, no judgment, man. These things happen. Just glad she's with someone who treats her right now, you know?" After he left, I ordered another and tried to process it. Sarah had moved on. Found some finance bro who believed her victim story and made her feel like a survivor instead of a co-conspirator. She'd reinvented herself as the innocent girl who escaped her predatory brother-in-law, and everyone was buying it. I'm the villain in everyone's story now. The cheating husband broke up a happy marriage and traumatized a young woman. David's the hero who stepped in to comfort my devastated wife. Sarah's the victim who bravely escaped my advances. Jessica's the long-suffering wife who finally found the courage to leave her abusive husband. And me? I'm the cautionary tale they'll tell at dinner parties. The guy who had everything and it away for a kiss that lasted 10 seconds. The divorce should be final next month. Jessica's keeping the house, half my savings, and most of our mutual friends. David's moving in with her as soon as the papers are signed. They're not even waiting for appearances anymore. I saw my mom at the grocery store yesterday. She looked right through me like I was a stranger, then turned her cart around and went down a different aisle. My mother is so ashamed of what she thinks I did that she can't bear to speak to me. Tonight, scrolling through Facebook like a masochist, I saw that Jessica and David made it official. In a relationship with heart emojis and comments from all our old friends congratulating them on finding happiness after everything they've been through. The comments section was worse than I expected. "So happy you found someone who treats you right, Jess. David, you're a good man for being there for her during the divorce. Some people don't deserve good women. Glad you both got your happy ending." There was one comment that made me close the laptop and pour another drink. Remember at the wedding when David said in his speech that if anyone ever hurt Jessica, they'd have to answer to him? Guess he meant it. Except that David never gave that speech. He disappeared to the bride instead. I'm starting to understand that truth doesn't matter when everyone's already decided who the villain is. I could scream the real story from rooftops, show everyone the evidence, but they'd just see a bitter ex-husband trying to drag down the people who moved on without him. The worst part is the loneliness. Not just being alone, I could handle that. It's been completely out from every support system I've ever had. Friends, family, colleagues, everyone who mattered in my life has chosen a side, and it's not mine. I eat dinner alone every night in this tomb of an apartment, listening to couples argue through thin walls, wondering how I became the monster in my own story. Tomorrow I'm supposed to sign the final papers. After that, it's official. 5 years of marriage, 15 years of knowing Jessica, 31 years of being David's little brother, all of it wiped clean like it never mattered. The papers are signed. As of last Friday at 3:47 p.m., I'm officially divorced, officially broke, and officially the most hated man in my former social circle. The whole thing took about 10 minutes. Jessica wore a black dress like she was going to a funeral. Maybe she was. I thought I'd feel something when the judge made it official. Relief, anger, sadness, anything. Instead, I felt like I was watching someone else's life fall apart in fast forward. Even my own truction felt borrowed. The settlement was brutal but expected. Jessica got the house, the good car, and $3,200 a month in alimony for 3 years. I get to keep my clothes, my old Honda, and about $30,000 from our savings. She also got the dog. Somehow, that's more than losing the house. David was waiting for her in the courthouse parking lot. I watched through the window as she ran to him, as he spun her around and kissed her like they'd been separated for years instead of hours. They drove away in his truck, to celebrate, probably. Maybe back to what used to be my house. My lawyer tried to make small talk as we walked out together, something about new beginnings and moving forward. I wasn't listening. I was thinking about how Jessica had looked at David, like he was her whole world, like everything she'd ever wanted was finally within reach. She'd never looked at me like that. Not once in 5 years. That weekend, I did something. Drove past the house, my house, their house now, hoping to see what my replacement life looked like. David's truck was in the driveway next to Jessica's BMW. The lawn was freshly mowed, flowers planted in the beds I'd always been too lazy to maintain. Through the kitchen window, I could see them cooking together, laughing about something. They looked happy. Actually, genuinely happy in a way Jessica and I had never been. The way they moved around each other, casual touches, inside jokes, it was natural, effortless, real. Everything our marriage had pretended to be. That's when it hit me, I wasn't the victim here. I was the obstacle they'd finally removed. Monday morning brought a new low. My boss called me into his office with HR present. Friendly conversation about my personal situation affecting my work performance and professional relationships. We've had some clients express concerns, he said, not meeting my eyes. About the allegations. Nothing concrete, you understand, but in our business, reputation is everything. What allegations? I asked, though I already knew. About your conduct with a minor family member. She's 22. The clients don't know that. HR jumped in with practice sympathy. We think it might be best if you took an extended leave of absence. Let things settle down. When you're ready to return, we can discuss options. Options like finding another job, another career, another life where people don't whisper predator when I walk into rooms. That afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. Jessica. We need to talk, she said. Meet me at the coffee shop on 5th Street in an hour. She was already there when I arrived, sitting in the back corner like she was conducting a drug deal. She looked good, better than she had in months. Hair styled, makeup perfect, wearing the blue sweater I'd bought her for Christmas that she'd never worn for me. How are you holding up? She asked as I sat down. How do you think? I heard about work. I'm sorry. Are you? She sighed, fingers drumming on her coffee cup. I didn't want it to go this far, Mike. The legal stuff, the lies about Sarah. But you have to understand. I don't have to understand anything. David and I are in love. Real love. The kind you read about, you know? We tried to stay away from each other after the wedding, but it was impossible. We're meant to be together. I stared at her. So why are you here? To gloat? To apologize. And to ask you to stop fighting the narrative. What narrative? The one where you're the cheater and I'm the victim. It's easier for everyone if we just let people think what they want to think. I laughed, actually laughed, for the first time in weeks. Easier for who? You? David? Certainly not me. You kissed my sister, Mike. That's not nothing. After 2 years of you cheating on me with my brother. But they don't know that timeline. And it's better if they don't. The audacity was breathtaking. She was asking me to fall on my sword, to let myself be painted as the villain so her happily ever after with David wouldn't be complicated by inconvenient truths. What's in it for me? I asked. Jessica reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. A check. For $50,000. David's contribution. Call it a settlement bonus. You're trying to buy my silence. I'm trying to make this easier for everyone. Take the money, move somewhere new, start over. Stop fighting a battle you can't win. I looked at the check. More money than I'd seen in months, enough to get out of the motel apartment and maybe rent something decent in another city. All I had to do was let them rewrite history. If I don't take it? Then we keep fighting. And you keep losing. Sarah's story doesn't change. Your family doesn't forgive you. Your career doesn't recover. You become the cautionary tale everyone tells about what happens when good men make bad choices. She leaned forward, eyes intense. You can't win this, Mike. I have better lawyers, more money, and a more sympathetic story. David has family support and social connections. You have what? A studio apartment and a grudge? I stared at the check for a long time. $50,000 to disappear quietly, to let them live their fairy tale while I faded into irrelevance. It was probably the smart play. The practical play. I tore it up. You, Jessica. And David, too.